You may have seen today that the Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood is waltzing around in a really big coat, announcing changes that she's making to the asylum system. So here's your quick and dirty guide to what these changes really mean. So these changes apply to people who have been recognised as refugees. If you came to the UK up until yesterday as an asylum seeker, we would check who you are and where you come from and assess whether or not you are in need of protection from persecution. And if we found that you were, you would be granted 5 years leave to remain on a pathway towards permanent residence. If you come to the UK as an asylum seeker from today, then you go through the same process. We assess where you come from, who you are, and if we agree that you do need protection from persecution, that it would be dangerous to send you back to where you've come from, we will not grant you 5 years leave to remain, we'll grant you 2.5 years. And then after 2.5 years, we'll reassess your claim all over again, and we'll establish whether it might be safe to send you back now, or whether you need another 2.5 years to remain, and so on and so on. And that might sound more or less reasonable. If your country becomes safe, then maybe you don't need that protection anymore. But its actual impact is going to be disastrous and stupid. Because when a country is dangerous enough that you have to escape it and you would qualify as a refugee, that means it's probably going to be dangerous for a while. That's usually just how things are. So a good example would be Iran, which has been ruled by the bloodthirsty dictatorship of the Ayatollahs for decades, and which has been the #1 country of origin for asylum seekers in the UK for 20 years. If over the last 20 years, every single one of those Iranian refugees that we had granted protection to had to have their claim reassessed over again, guess what? We'd have found that they were still escaping from a dangerous circumstances, and it still wouldn't have been safe to send them back. It just would have been a complete waste of time. And the country whose system this idea is based on, Denmark, has found that. Unfortunately, countries that are really unsafe tend to stay very unstable and very unsafe for a long, long time. And so it just is more efficient to grant people a longer status. It's also better for those people. So let's remember, this is only applying to people we say, yes, you have escaped from torture, from war, from persecution. You need our help. Those people who need our help will now have a much more insecure status in the UK, with the threat of the reassessment of their claim and potential deportation hanging over them every couple of years. That's going to prevent them from being able to feel the security they need to recover from the trauma that they've experienced, and the long-term security and stability they need to rebuild a new life in this country. It'll also make it much harder for them to find long-term, stable, good quality employment. So this will be a massive barrier to integration. And of course, it's a huge additional administrative burden on the UK. So at the moment, it takes an average of 400 days for us to give an asylum seeker a decision on their claim, keeping them in limbo in these stupid asylum hotels or army barracks or whatever, not allowed to work. This proposes doing all of that again every couple of years. The Home Office is clearly not keeping on top of its brief to produce good quality asylum decisions within a reasonable timeframe, as it is. Doubling the administrative burden on the Home Office is just idiotic. But if you're a refugee, and let's remember, this is targeted at recognised refugees, you need to escape from danger. So you're still going to escape from danger, and you're still going to come to countries like the UK that can offer you safety. This isn't going to have any impact whatsoever on the number of people who need our help.